Bit sleepy, Alex?
Did you hear that yawn?
I heard half a yawn, and it
Damn
trailed
it.
off like you were trying to hide it.
Yes, I was trying to hide my yawn. Um, oh, look, I don't know. I think I'm always sleepy at the moment. I have quite a busy schedule, actually. Um, and I went to training yesterday, and we're doing practicing strikes, basically, which usually is all right because I think that I'm fairly fit at the moment, and I'm fairly strong in my stomach core area. Uh, but I went yesterday and I was training, or my partner was a guy who's quite big. He's probably over 100 kilos. And he was just hitting me in the stomach. And every time he hit me in the stomach, I thought, this is it. I'm going to either collapse or I'm going to vomit, basically. And I kept on fighting through that. I thought, okay, just one more, Alex, and then you can give up. One more, and then you can give up. And I got to the end of it, and I kind of doubled over a bit after he was done, and I thought, and I was just basically making a show of being a big wuss. And I thought, it probably wasn't even that hard. And he was telling me it's not that hard. I'm not even hitting it that hard. But this morning, I woke up and all my abs are just like I've got red marks all across my abs, which I assume are probably going to turn blue in a little bit. So he was actually hitting me hard. Wasn't entirely being a wuss.
You sure put yourself through some punishment.
Well, look, I do, but I mean that's the thing. That's what you train for. You train. Well, I specifically train so that I can hopefully compete in some tournaments, but as well, I think it has the really useful extra benefit
Of
of
building up some belly calluses.
belly calluses. Yes, okay, two extra benefits then: belly calluses, and being directly translatable to self-defense. So, a couple of weeks ago, I bought a pair of Bluetooth headphones, the Backbeat Pro. And so far, I'm actually loving them. So, I've been using them intermittently, as I tend to do with headphones. I'm not a huge music listener, and I don't really watch many videos on my phone. But when I have used them, they have really good sound quality. I initially thought that the bass was a bit strange, but I think it was just the audio tracks that I was playing, because, yeah, basically it works really well. It has a really high volume. If you ever feel like you need to destroy your eardrums, you have that option, which, hopefully you never go down that road, but if you do, it's there. It's got really cool controls as well on the headphones themselves, and it's also got sensors. So when I put them on, it tells me that the battery's high and the Bluetooth is connected. And then when I actually take them off my ears, it'll stop playing whatever track I'm playing. And when I put them back on my ears, it'll continue playing it.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it's got really awesome features like that. And as well, you can just do the basics on the headphones themselves. So you can control the volume, you can play, pause, you can skip forward and backwards on tracks. It's also got an open mic feature. So it's got the noise cancelling feature, which I suppose most headphones do. And as well, it sits quite well over my ears, so it tends to block out a decent amount of noise. But if I want, I can press a button, and it has an open, what they call an open mic feature, which means that it'll actually, I guess, transmit noise from outside through the microphone or through the headphones themselves.
Oh, okay.
So then basically I can hear everything around me as if I was not wearing them. So I suppose if I wanted to be one of those people, I could keep my headphones on while I was speaking to somebody.
Yes. I suppose that's more for when you're just walking around and avoiding traffic and things.
Yeah, or you want to listen to announcements at the train station or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, really, really cool. Really cool. And the bass is actually really good as well.
Mm.
Not that, again, I know people are able to analyze the sound coming out of headphones a lot better than I can, because they hear the details. Um, but yeah, for me, it's just good being a casual listener. I quite enjoy them.
You don't have super sensitive hearing?
Look, to be honest, I think my hearing's quite bad. When I was, well, when I was a kid, I used to get ear infections a lot. And so I have had a hearing test, and they said my hearing is passable, I suppose. But I know my hearing isn't great, and especially when there's background noise, or if there are two similar noises, I just struggle to distinguish between the two. I don't know if that's a hearing thing. Maybe that's just a mental thing, perhaps. But certainly, I can't hear people when I go into noisy venues like a pub or something. I just can't.
I think
hear them at
everyone
all.
struggles with that, though. Some of those places are ridiculous.
Oh, everyone struggles definitely, but I feel that I just don't have a chance. Like I literally can't hear them.
Hmm.
Yeah. But you're right. Of course, everyone struggles, which just makes it seem so strange because everyone struggles. Yet I don't know how many pubs you go to, but every single pub that I seem to go to, they always play loud music, and it's just absolutely horrible to be in there.
I know, it's one of my pet peeves. If I ever get rich enough to blow some money, I'm going to start an establishment that plays very quiet music or none at all. And has like sound things on the wall to absorb everything.
That's it. And I feel music definitely serves a purpose in a venue, but it should be music that you can talk over.
Yes.
Because why would you go somewhere just to listen to incredibly loud music that drowns everything else out?
Yes.
And
If you
it
want to
isn't
just listen
good.
to music, you'd go to a concert of
Yeah.
your choosing or listen
Yeah.
to your own music.
Yes, exactly. And it just seems so strange that for some reason, despite the fact that there are so many of these venues around, so many of them seem to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Although I think a lot of people or a lot of venues have the fortune of being or have their location, and that's what sells them.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to push drinks. That's
Yeah.
what I always think when I go into one of those venues. They're trying to push drinks. Because if you can't talk, what are you going to do? You're going to drink.
Of course.
Yeah. Just a disgusting way to do it, though, really, isn't it?
Maybe our height is also a factor.
That's true.
Because I also very much struggle. Not that I'm in these situations often, but sometimes I'm just trying to like lip read and then I just give
Yes.
up.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that struggles. Have you ever considered owning a venue? Because I mean, not that I am seriously considering it, but I always think if I was really rich, I'd really love to own a pub, and then I could make it into a really cool, kind of old-fashioned pub with a fireplace, and nice, comfy booths, and a nice selection of drinks as well. So I find that for me, I know that you're not a huge drinker.
Huge
And
drink. I don't drink at all.
Okay, well, you're not a drinker then. And I wouldn't classify myself as a huge drinker, but I do go out a bit. And when I go out, it seems to me that they just don't have a good selection of drinks available. They have a few beers, Australian beers, like the Carlton and the VB and maybe James Squire or something like that. But none of them are nice beers. And I think that in my old age, David, I'm starting to appreciate nice beer.
When I was in Malaysia, we went to this place that I think might have been a brothel, but we're not
really?
sure. But anyway, we were trying to get some drinks there, and everyone was asking for this and that, and they're like, no, no, no. And then finally they're like, oh, what do you have? And I had
Yeah.
this one thing, I can't remember what it was. And then I said, can I just have a water? And like, we don't have that.
Really?
They had exactly one beverage.
And what was it? Was it a beer or?
It was some sort of beer, I think, in a green bottle, maybe Heineken.
Heineken. Of all the things to have, Heineken, really.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Okay, awesome. Look, I know that across Asia, because I have traveled across Asia, a lot of the places you go to, sometimes they'll just have one drink. Although usually it'll be Coca-Cola or something like that. I've never gone to a place where they've only got beer. Although, actually, no, that's not true. I have been to a place, but they serve the beer in a jug, and that I don't know if you've kind of. Well, I assume you're aware of this. It's dangerous to drink beer that basically has come out of a bottle already in anywhere in Asia because the water is quite possibly tainted, or if they serve it with ice, the ice is quite possibly tainted.
Yeah, that's true of all beverages, right? There, not just beer.
Oh yeah, everything.
They say don't drink the water, especially because of the ice or something.
Yeah,
Or
so
don't get ice in drinks.
don't get ice in drinks because usually the ice will be made somewhere where they don't have high quality of water purification.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. So, what's the brand of karate you said you do?
It's called Kyokushin.
Kyokushin.
Yeah, Kyokushin. And essentially, the story behind karate as we know it is basically that it started in Japan,
Yes.
and it's sort of bled out from Japan, really. So my particular style of karate came from someone called Masayama, who seems to be in the West sort of a father figure of karate in a lot of ways because he brought it over to the UK and then it spread from there. When he died, obviously, he had all these students and all of them were fairly accomplished. And he was this big charismatic figure who just, basically came up with all these rules and said what you should do and rah-de-rah-de-rah. But he had all these, obviously, these really accomplished students. And when he died, they all said, well, look, I'm not listening to any of you guys. I'm going to go off and teach my own style. And since then, basically, it's fractured into a lot of different areas. So when I say I follow Kyokushin Karate, really, I follow Kyokushin Karate, which I think this guy called Masayama did come up with, which was then, it's then come through one of his main students, which is the guy who is still alive at 80, called Steve Arneal. And he's the guy, I suppose he's one of the main offshoots of this, but there are probably thousands of different karate, and they all call themselves something different. Most of them just have a random Japanese name that doesn't mean anything to anyone.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, I mean, they all have a meaning, but, I mean, they're not actually really meaningful.
No, okay.
So Kyokushin means the ultimate truth, which...
The one true religion?
Yeah, well, basically, yeah.
So what would, stylistically, I suppose, what sets it apart from some of the other ones?
So a lot of them are fairly similar, and there are minor differences. So with Kyokushin, it's a full contact style, which means that you do strike people, which isn't the case for some martial arts. So you don't do fist strikes to the face. So you don't do any hand strikes to the face, but you can strike to the head with your legs or your feet.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I should say as well, you can't elbow people to the face either. So basically,
what about headbutts or shoulder charges?
Exactly. No upper body strikes to the head, to any of the head area, but you can obviously strike with your legs. Same rules that apply to most fighting, so obviously no biting or scratching or any of that kind of stuff. It is just striking only, and nothing to the groin or neck or spine or anywhere that could potentially do serious damage. And as I said, then it really becomes minor stuff. So there are a lot of Kyokushin styles out there, and a lot of them are just differentiated by the people that went off and did their own thing. So they might focus on certain areas. So there are three kind of main areas of, well, as I see it, again, I'm not really sure if this is the official definition, but three main areas. So there's kata, which is basically forms. So you kind of do it's not a stylized dance. It's a series of punches or series of strikes and blocks and, I guess, movements. a set series of these, which you learn. So that's kata. And then there's the fighting element. So that's with fighting, you have non-contact, point contact, which is light contact, and then you have full contact as well. And it's not necessarily obligatory to fight full contact in a competition sense or really in a classroom, but you do have to, if you want to get a black belt, be able to fight full contact. So they will actually test you on that.
Okay.
So, I mean, you have to have the ability, but obviously everyone has different abilities and everyone sits in a different, well, I mean, most people sit in different weight classes as well.
Oh, there's weight classes too, is there?
There are weight classes, yeah. I mean, in a competition sense, there are weight classes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, me wailing on someone who's 50 kilograms just isn't ever going to be fair. You know, no matter how good of a fighter you are, you're never going to be able to stand up to that. Well, I mean, unless you're an amazing fighter. So, you know, obviously, all this is taken into account when you're tested. And then I suppose there's the final kind of area is technique. So you practice a lot of different techniques, whether it's strikes, blocks, whatever, and they all kind of blend into each other in a lot of ways too.
What's your best move?
My best
move. What strikes fear into your opponent?
Look, I wouldn't really say I have a best move. If I did, it would possibly be a Jodan Mawashigeri, which is a kick with your shin to the side of somebody's head.
Sounds brutal.
Again, I want to really stress this. I wouldn't really say it's a particularly good move, but if I have won fights in the past, I feel that it has been because I actually have the ability to kick people in the head. People my height as well, so you know it is quite a useful technique.
You hurt your shin doing that? Absolutely.
Kyokushin is incredibly hard on your shins as well because I mean, you have the ability to kick high, but you have to do it well. And the only reason I think I've been able to get away with it is because I haven't really had a fight that I've won or done that kick in where I've been against a particularly good opponent. So someone who, instead of, you know, not really having quick reflexes and letting their hands drop, because if your hands drop, obviously your head becomes exposed and then potentially you could get kicked. So against a good opponent, obviously you have to actually make that opening. So you have to bring their hands down by striking them in the, you know, I suppose in the stomach area, and you have to create that opening for yourself. Whereas as opposed to a lower class opponent that doesn't. So what a lot of higher class opponents or high class fighters will do is they might get one of those kicks in very occasionally, but mostly they kick to people's legs, because if you can kick someone in the legs hard enough, you can stop them moving effectively. And once you stop them moving effectively, you can start to get around them. And instead of kicking or striking them in the front of their body, which a lot of fighters will, it's really easy to strengthen. Well, when I say really easy, you know, it's a lot easier to strengthen the front of your stomach as opposed to the side of your stomach.
Yes, that makes sense.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So around your rib area, or around the sides, it's a lot harder to strengthen those muscles than it is the front muscles here. So once you can weaken somebody's legs and stop them moving effectively, you can then start to get around them and you can start striking to the side where they'll be weaker. And yeah, you can stop them moving well. And basically once you do that, they won't be able to move in on you and strike you, and then you can just dance around them. And you know that you're going to increase your chances a lot by doing that. So a lot of that is low kicks. And as you can imagine with a low kick, so say if you were standing up against somebody and you tried to kick them in their thigh, right?
Yeah.
It's quite easy to lift your leg and do what's called a check, which is basically you block their shin with your shin. Or if you're really good, you're blocking their shin with your knee. So when you do those type of kicks and you do that block, you are basically going bone-on-bone contact, because it's the bone of your shin against the bone of their shin, or potentially the bone of your knee against their knee or vice versa.
Yeah.
So really hard on your shins, but that's just really what it takes. Like, you've got to just toughen your shins up to the point where, it doesn't bother you that you've just basically broken your shin.
Not going to start your own style anytime soon?
Look, I never would, just because I feel it's really
Oversaturated?
Yeah, it's really counterproductive for the development of karate and for the learning of students as well, because a lot of the main motivation for people starting their own styles is financial.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, people want to start their own styles so that they can then benefit from it financially.
You don't want to turn your hobby into a business?
No, I don't think so. Look, I mean, maybe, because I know that my instructors would potentially like everyone who gets a black belt to start their own dojo. But that's just not really something that I want to do, to be honest.
How many hours do you have to do to get a black belt?
Minimum 1,000 hours. But I mean, that's 1,000 hours of directly being in the dojo and training. And like, it doesn't kind of include everything else that comes with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And everything else that comes with that is, the training outside, which, is potentially just as much. Like, at the moment, I probably spend about as much time in the gym as I do training karate. And I do just want to say as well that I'm not particularly good at karate. So, obviously you need to spend a lot more hours than me.
So what you're saying, anyone listening out there that was starting to feel inspired, the fact that you've spent 3 years doing it and you're still not good, probably look for an easier hobby.
No, definitely not. I mean, if a lot of things that are worth doing aren't easy, that's just the way it is, right?
That's true.
Have you happened to watch on Netflix Requiem for the American Dream?
No. What's it about?
So basically, it's done by this. I don't know who actually produced it, but it's this guy called Noam Chomsky, I think is the way he's pronounced. Talking about the situation in America at the moment, and basically he just talks about finance, the government, and capitalism and corruption in capitalism. I suppose are essentially the main themes of the show, okay, or of the movie or documentary or whatever you call it. But what he says, and what I suppose is true, again, I can't really speak on it with any real authority, is he says that basically education should be free. And it makes sense for education to be free. In the same way that it makes sense for health to be free or healthcare to be free. Because, I mean, for you and I, especially for you and I, people who, I mean, I don't know about you, but I couldn't really afford to get cancer, especially at my age. I mean, who is going to pay for all the extra costs? Because I probably won't be able to work, I'd imagine. And, if I could, I'd probably be working in a reduced capacity. Or I can't really afford to become disabled, which is strange because it's not something I can control, but I can't afford for it to happen because I would probably have to go back to living with my parents, and they can't really afford to keep me. And basically, the only way I could afford to become disabled is if I had disability insurance. So what essentially has happened is it's gone from being what I believe Medicare originally was, which is a publicly funded system which would cover the costs of me being in a situation where I couldn't look after myself, to being a system which kind of subsidizes it in a way, but it doesn't cover all the costs. So then if I wanted to cover those costs, I'd then have to go to a private institution, i.e. an insurer. I would then have to pay the premiums to them instead of maybe upping the tax rate or something that we have at the moment. And I would then have to put my money into a private system and then allow that private system to take care of me instead of the public system, which would be an automatic system as opposed to the private system, which is an electing system that you have to be able to afford.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So it essentially takes away the automatic status of these things like education and healthcare as well, and they start to become something that only the rich can afford. So, I mean, obviously in America it's a lot worse. In Australia, I think you can probably get away with having an education. You know, it all goes onto your HECS debt and then you can pay that off later. But obviously you still have to pay it off. And in America, that's not the case at all. You know, you have to pay up. I don't know exactly how it works, but I think you have to pay the university up front. I don't think there is a government debt system. And if there is, they don't cover the full cost because I know some people just can't afford to go to college.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not sure if there are more complicated factors involved, but to me, it just seems really greedy and really pointless and really selfish to move. Well, I mean, I kind of got on to the point of healthcare, but originally we were talking about education, to move those things out of the reach of people who can't necessarily afford them, you know? Because I know that at the moment I'm being told I should take private health cover. But why would I want to take up private health cover, you know? For me, that seems really stupid. I already pay a Medicare levy on my taxes.
Yeah.
And I would be happy to pay a higher rate of tax if it meant that I got full Medicare coverage. But it's not in a public system anymore. Like, there isn't full medical coverage in a public system. It sits in a private system. And then the money, instead of going, you know, back to the hospitals or back to wherever it should be, it goes to private companies. So I really hate private health cover. And I know I work in insurance as well. And we
probably know all the ins and outs of this sort of stuff.
Well, look, I know the products we offer, but I mean, we haven't really lived in an age where we have a system like the NHS. But apparently, and that's the National Healthcare Scheme in the UK, which everything is free. In Australia, apparently Medicare used to be that, but it's just been stripped away. But it never should have been, ever.
No, I agree with you. They're sort of basic services. That's what citizens need to live, and that's what you should provide them with.
But that comes with consequences, and the consequences are there should be higher tax rates. In my mind, there should be higher tax rates, and people should argue for these services. But it becomes more about, well, I'm not using Medicare. You know, my children aren't going to school anymore. I don't want to pay for these things. But you shouldn't get a choice with your tax. You know, you should decide, right, well, now that I'm getting older, I want my tax dollars to be doing this and this and this. You know, but that's what happens as a result of having an election system where you elect somebody, where you elect a popular leader instead of the right leader for the country. Because that's how Donald Trump got in. You know, he's not the right leader for America. I hate to say it, but he's not.
No.
You know, he doesn't care about the average American, but the average American voted him in.
Well, they wanted change, and he was the only one saying that he was going to change anything, even if he's going to make it worse.
Yeah, it's funny about that, isn't it?
The SNES Classic seems to be a thing that's happening, which after talking about the NES Classic last week, we could talk about that briefly.
Okay, all right, cool. So basically what Nintendo are doing is just keeping themselves in the headlines again, it would seem.
Yes. They've discontinued one product, and they're going to bring out another one.
Yeah.
Of the later generation Super Nintendo.
The way they refer to it here is artificial scarcity.
Yes, I think that's a good term for it.
I think that's a fantastic term for it. Just such ridiculous marketing, but I mean, I guess if that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do.
It does seem effective to a degree at least, but I don't know how much of it is cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Look, it is, yeah. Do you know how the Nintendo Switch has fared in terms of reviews and stuff?
Fairly positively.
Hmm?
Definitely much better than the Wii U,
Well, I don't think that was particularly
which
difficult.
took a beating.
Yeah.
They've sold all the units that they've made so far. They've actually sold more copies of the Zelda game than they have the Switch, which is interesting.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So either there's a few people buying it for the Wii U still, because it's on that platform as well. Or they're
Right.
buying the special edition and the normal edition, or they're buying the game before they get the Switch because it's not available.
Right. Do you know how many more?
In the thousands, not like hugely more, but it is still weird.
Yeah, okay. That is pretty odd, isn't it?
But it is that game. Everyone loves that game universely.
I have heard that it's quite good, yeah.
Yeah, I've never actually played a Zelda game.
Really? Oh, look, I've got to say, I think I might have had a go or two, but I'd be in about the same boat. I haven't really played a Zelda game either. Which, I mean, if you don't have a Nintendo though, why would you?
Yeah,
I guess is the question, because it's one of those things. I mean, did you ever really play Mario Kart or any of the other big Nintendo?
only at other people's houses from time to time.
Yeah.
I am quite tempted by the Switch. Still haven't pulled the trigger yet, but it is a
Really?
neat looking system.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Look, I mean, you see, I tend to feel that my Xbox, I actually get all right value out of my Xbox because I have a friend who we play the zombies on Call of Duty on the Xbox.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of how I get value out of it. But apart from that, I really don't play. I watch Netflix on my Xbox, David. I'm pretty bad.
That's all right. I mean, it's on there for a reason.
Yeah. Look, it is, but I mean, a lot of
Switch
the
still
time,
doesn't have Netflix on it.
really.
It's coming, apparently.
Really?
I can't believe they couldn't get that ready for launch though.
It's funny how they just don't seem to get these things together with Nintendo. It's just weird, eh?
Yeah, but it was a weird time to launch in March or April, whenever it was. I feel like it's sort of like a soft launch, and then by the time the holiday season rolls around, like all those things will be in place.
Do you know how they're going with games? Are they going to release more games?
There's a Mario Kart coming out very shortly. It'll be interesting to see whether they bring out Pokemon, because traditionally that was only always on the handheld, and because this is sort of their non-handheld one, but also their handheld one, but they still have the 3DS.
Yeah.
Is that going to come?
No, they definitely need to do that, I feel. Yeah. Because Pokemon was my real exposure to Nintendo. I mean, I know I played Nintendo 64.
Yeah, you had the original Game Boy, didn't you?
I had one of the original black and white Game Boys, and then I think I had a color Game Boy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were pretty awesome, eh?
They were.
I think I had it was a level 90 something Lugia in Pokemon Silver. That was my crowning glory. And the way I got that Lugia was I just played the game over and over again, and I went through the gym over and over and over and over and over and over again. It was a bit ridiculous, actually, really, because you got to like the final gym of the area, and every time you went through the final gym, it would give you the credits. So basically, and you had to get through a cave as well to get to the gym. So I learned my way through the cave so well that I could actually do it in the dark. And what I mean by the dark is you had Pokemon that you could kind of use flame with, which was one of their abilities, and then they'd light up the cave. But I got so good at going through this cave that I actually I didn't even need to use the flame. I just knew which way to kind of go.
You just walk in the dark.
Yeah, basically. And it was several turns, and obviously, if you're turning the wrong way, you don't know because the whole screen's black.
Yeah.
But I knew it so well that I just knew to go to the end of this tunnel. I keep pressing forward, then press sideways, then press forward, then press sideways, and the other side, and then forwards, and then rah.
You should play that again. Might all come back to you.
Oh, probably not, to be honest. I don't have enough things sucking up my life. Thanks for listening. Consider supporting us on Patreon and leaving a review on iTunes.
See you, Alex.
Goodbye, David. See you next week.
See you next week.